Divine Rising, Grand Rising, blessed be to the day, may be everything that you require to create what you desire. We understand that to win the day, one must first understand exactly the difference between progression and addiction. One must understand the differences between what is true humility and what is true to the aspects of our humility. So we ask ourselves that question. What is humility? What is integrity? Integrity cannot be found in states of addiction. Integrity cannot be found in states of addiction. We're going to break it down with that. Integrity cannot be found in states of addiction. Integrity only can be found, craziest part about it, integrity only can be found in states of true progression. I learned this through many of my ego deaths. Integrity only can be found. Integrity is only found. Integrity and humility are only found. Grand Rising. Integrity and humility can only be found in our darkness. Integrity and humility only can be found inside of our darkness. It is not about, when we think about integrity, when we think about humility, when we think about humility, we have this thought process that is based on our actions in the external. It's always based on our actions based in the external. That means I show great integrity whenever I'm in the face of adversity or I'm in the face of something. But integrity is not as much as about the external, it's about the internal. So when I think about integrity, I'm thinking about what I do when I'm alone to myself, and if I'm going to maintain that. Integrity is maintained from the internal aspect. Humility is maintained from the internal aspect. Progression into your darkness, progression into your shadows, progression into allowing those impurities to burn away. Progression breeds the discomfort in that this discipline in our discomfort to help us learn our integrity. It doesn't matter what I do in front of individuals. It doesn't matter what I do on the screen. It doesn't matter what I do in the external state. It doesn't matter. Shit don't matter. What matters is when I'm to myself, when I'm by myself, in my space, in that moment of reflection, do I maintain that said integrity that I need everybody to see? One of the things that I had to learn when it came to the aspects of me being in an integrity aspect, it had nothing to do with morals. My integrity had nothing to do with my morals or my traditional standpoints, because as I started to advance into the darkness of myself, I noticed that I used my morals to serve my own gains. That's to serve the identity, to stay within a certain space, to keep behaving a certain way, to keep acting a certain way. But when I was by myself, that's where my integrity was tested the most. When I was left to my own thoughts, that's when our integrity is tested the most. When you're left with those doors, when you're left looking at those doors, when you're in your shadows, that's when your humility is tested the most. That's when that's when that vulnerability is brought to the surface. That's when that progression is looked at. When we're looking at our aspects, thinking about progression, there's a line between progression and addiction. The line between progression and addiction is the being alone, the being alone, being to yourself, being alone in that sense. This is where you know you're on a path of addiction when you feel the longing, when you, not necessarily when you feel it, but when you react to the longing and the needing for a distraction or comfort. That's when you know you're stepping into that path of the addiction. When you're in that path of progression, you understand that being to yourself is going to help you to be able to define exactly what is your truth. It helps you define exactly what your truth is. It helps you define those aspects. So if you have that issue with being alone, you have that issue with being to yourself, you'll fill that void, you'll fill that space with things that only bring you comfort, only bring you a sense of, they'll bring you a slight sense or this light sense of, yeah, I'm doing some things because I can say I did this. I'm saying that I'm doing that. I'm saying that I'm doing this. That chips away at your humility. Because when you go back to yourself, you don't feel the need to have to state what it is in fear that somebody's going to say something to one up you. You don't get, I remember in times for myself where when I would get irritated, when I would get truly irritated, and really looking back at those moments when I got irritated, and it wasn't from a space of they're always saying they're doing something, they're always saying they're doing something, they're always saying they're making moves, but I don't see any results of their moves. It's because I was used to every move that I made had to be made public. Everything that I did had to be made public. I had to everybody had to see it in order for it to actually exist. In order for me to be that way, I had to have that external validation. It's this external validation. I was addicted to that validation. If I was doing something, I was addicted to that validation. So so what I found myself doing was, when I wasn't getting the validation that I felt that I deserved, I would stop doing the things that I needed to do. The one thing that we've been getting into is understanding the progression of yourself. The external will deteriorate. The external deteriorates as you progress. As you come into the addiction, the external seems to stay to where it's at. The greatest example that I'm always using is when we look at the COVID crisis, any pandemic, anything that goes down, the only thing that it really shows you is how much you weren't doing what you said you were doing. How much that identity really doesn't work. How much that identity really doesn't have any value outside of the emotional attachment that it's interlaced with. For me in the state, I remember every single time when I was thinking to myself, like, yo, all I need is the time. All I need is the time and the space to be able to sit there with myself and really start getting some things done. And I kept saying this to myself, this false sense of humility. I was still riding the wave of validation based on what I was doing. And then the COVID shit hit. And then I was forced to sit my ass down. When that COVID shit hit, I was forced to sit my ass down. I got exactly what I asked for. I got exactly what I asked for. And from that point of getting exactly what I asked for, it's always been my choice to what I'm going to do with it. Am I going to steady stay in this addictive state, see, this is why we can't do anything. This is why we can't, this is why I can't do this because I gotta do this, and this. Or am I really about to look and see exactly where my integrity lies? Remember, your integrity lies in that darkness. Your humility lies into that darkness. So if you avoiding your darkness, you avoiding doing that internal, then you're gonna only be able to use the external narratives that are set to the tone of you saying that, yeah, I got integrity. I got humility. I'm always humble. But in reality, it's the withdrawal symptom of your addiction. Because you're only humble. This is the thing when it comes into true humility and true integrity. When you're truly in a state of integrity with yourself, that means you have defined your integrity. When you're really in a sense of humility with yourself, when the external narrative, as you progress, and the external narratives start to degenerate and deteriorate, you stand stronger. Yeah, on your face you may look a little stressed, you may look a little bit upset, but that's just the mask coming off. I remember for myself sitting there in that space, and I really had to look at, I wasn't really humble because I had nothing to base my humility on other than the external aspect. This is why I'm humble. That's why I'm humble. This is why I'm humble. This is why I'm doing, this is why I do this. But without any of these aspects outside of me, am I still in a state of true integrity with myself? Am I truly in a state of progressing with myself? My progression invokes change. Your progression is going to invoke your change. I've talked about that before with those cycles. When that high sense of emotion comes up, it's going to expose your behavior. We're all waiting for that. Ooh, let's wait to see what it exposes. Everything being exposed. All we got to do is wait our time. We just got to wait. We just got to remain humble. You're not being humble because you're depending on something outside of you to set your tone. That codependency, that addiction. So what you're really feeling whenever things start to progress, you're feeling that withdrawal. You're feeling that dry out. You're feeling yourself drying out. A lot of us are coming into this cycle. You're coming into your awakening. You're waking up. You're becoming aware. You've been doing your work. You're stepping into your work. You're stepping to that next level. And what you feel that feels like a very deep pain, you're drying out. The residue, as I like to call it, the residue on your mirror, that residue on your physical mirror is now has to be addressed as you look into your spiritual mirror. That way you can come into that alignment with everything that you desire, with everything that you need in the attitude of that intellectual or that intelligence that you need to tap into. But you got to clean that mirror off first. A lot of us like using the same mirror that we used when we first came in. Mirror dirty as hell, not cleaning our mirrors off. And then we wondering whenever something comes down, it looks distorted. It doesn't look like the way we perceived it to look like. It's because it's time to clean that mirror. It's time to wipe that mirror down. Before you come into any aligning, you gotta adjust. Before you adjust these mirrors, it's time to clean them off. It's time to look at your true self. Remember, you do not get based on what you want to be. You do not get based on what you want to be, what you are going to be, what you say that you are. You get based on what you are. You receive based on what you are. That unseen aspect is what you are. That unseen and undealt with aspect that you are in that space with, that's what you are. That experience that keeps coming up every time that experience that keeps coming up every time that you go into that darkness, that's what you are. It's time to deal with what you are. It's time to dry out. It's time to address those debts. That's what we got into on this week's episode of the God Hour podcast. We got into that family feud, got into those karmic debts, why you're the black sheep, and understanding the difference between family and being familiar based on the relevance to the trauma. In order for you to tap into who you are, you're not doing this at a point to stay relevant. You'll know when you're in that state of progression because your space around you, the things that are in a true state of progression, one thing that I learned, they're not going to come from the old mentality or my old mindset. One of the things that I really realized was when I said that I was progressing and I was advancing and I was doing all of these things, and I would get frustrated or irritated because my space didn't match it or my environment didn't match it, but I wasn't learning that. I was like, oh, wait. Maybe, just maybe, everything that's popping up is letting me know I need to clean this mirror off. All this stuff is the stuff that I usually put in front of the mirror. Use the visualization like if you remember at your grandmother's house or your grandmother's house, and she had that mirror in her room, and she had like all of the pictures from the family all on the mirror, or your mom got that picture in her bedroom with all the pictures of the family all over the mirror. She got all of her smell goods lined up in front of the mirror to where you can't see the fucking mirror. That's what a lot of you are doing. That's what a lot of us are doing. That's what I used to do. I had every picture of every experience on this mirror. Every experience was on that mirror. I had all my smell goods on that mirror. I had all my aspects on that. I had everything in front of that mirror. So when it came time for me to be like, hey, Los, it's time for you to do this work. Hey, Los, it's time for you to really get serious about your studies. Hey, Los, it's really time for you to get serious about those internal wounds. Every time that it came to a chance for me to actually, in that space of integrity in my darkness, I had a picture on the wall, a picture on the mirror to look at. Like, ooh, I remember this day. This was a great day. And I would get lost and distracted and, ooh, this is a great day. And then I get distracted from what I was really doing. It's time to clean that mirror off. Your integrity and your humility are found in your darkness. Your integrity and your humility are found inside of your darkness. It's not what you're doing externally to maintain the identity. It's based on the unseen that you deal with that same energy. Remember, we always talking about keep that same energy. That same energy you put into that identity, into the behavior, it's time to put into that internal work that you need to deal with. That's what everything's showing you right now. Last year was the Trump card, the Donald Trump, giving you the real aspects. And now you got Biden talking about Bidenomics popping up now. You got all of these things hot. Oh my God. It's letting you know where you are actually at. But you got to truly look at you. It's time to clean the mirror. Tonight we gonna get a little deeper into this. We're gonna get a little deeper into the progression factor, the progression versus addiction. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We gonna get into that tonight at the God Hour show. Everything from readings, consultations, getting that consultation book, getting that so you can start those sessions, getting yourself into that space so you in advance, so you really can be like, you know what, it's time for me to do this. It's time for you to be the fucking best. It's time for you to be the fucking best. It's time for you to stop saying that you're the fucking best and depending on the external identity to make you seem like you're the best. And it's time for you to actually become the best. The best is an energy. Your integrity is an energy that you carry. Your humility is an energy that you carry. Your progression is an energy that you carry. That moment when you feel alone, that moment when you're feeling alone and oh my God, that longing comes up that you need something to help you cope with that being alone, that's when you know you're on that path of addiction. When you're on that path of progression, you understand that longing feeling, that's a trigger to help you go deeper in. It's time for you to progress. I love you. We love us. Ashe.